Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And my name is Bryce Runge.
I'm glad.
You're glad?
Well, I'm glad that you know that your name is Bryce Runge. You know, because sometimes you go, well, I'm Bryce. Runge? So I'm glad,
Question mark?
Yeah, it's kind of like you don't know who you are. So
I used to question that a lot, Rod, actually. Who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing?
Yeah. Wait a minute. What was that? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Wow. That hurts my heart, Rod. Hurts my heart.
Maybe I should try to be a better listener.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you be a better listener? Are you good listening?
I have been told I am a good listener, yes. But I absolutely can continue to grow towards becoming a better listener. Why?
Well, okay, so...
What? Ever.
Smarty pants. So Sherry was telling me...
Who? Sorry.
Man, this is going to be a long episode at this rate. Squirrel. So, can I tell my story?
Yes.
All right. So,
I'm sorry.
I'm afraid to continue because...
I won't.
Oh, okay.
I'll hold back.
Oh, good, please. So Sherry was telling me she tells me frequently, I just want you to listen. I want to vent. Because when she starts talking, I automatically want to go into fix mode.
How can I fix this?
Yes, I get angry with the people that are making her life unpleasant or challenging at the moment. And I don't know, does that ever work? Do you ever go through that where, Suzanne's going on and you feel her anger, her frustration, and you want to fix it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, Sherry tells me, I don't want you to fix it. I don't want you to comment on everything. I want you to just shut up, sit there, and listen to what I have to say.
Right.
So that's why I was teasing you at the beginning. I apologize, but boy, did you return it in spades. So
sorry. So what are we talking about today?
Well, okay. So as I'm trying to become a therapist, and the number one job of a therapist is to listen and not try and fix every minutia of a problem, I thought, how can I become a better listener? Are there things that we can do to be a better listener? And is there any benefit? What are the benefits? I won't say, are there any? Because the answer is absolutely yes, there are. So what are the benefits? And so as I'm pondering this, and when they say that your phone doesn't listen, I would disagree. Because it wasn't more than maybe a day later that something pops up on my Twitter that talks about, there's a lady, her name is Susan Krause Whitmore. She's a PhD from University of Massachusetts, Amherst. And it talks about 10 qualities of a great listener.
No way.
And so I thought, okay, so I read it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we got to talk about it. We got to do an episode. So I want to do this episode on going through, because I think, you and I have talked about this, about listening to understand, not listening to respond. And so I thought it kind of fit real well, because they're saying that if you can become a good listener, then you can create a high sense of what they're calling interpersonal chemistry.
Yeah.
Chemistry with other people. And because when we're talking to somebody, and I tell my students all the time, when I'm talking, I want you to listen. So that when you talk, I want to listen to what you have to say. So be respectful to each other and listen when someone else is talking.
Yeah.
And so again, there's so much that we can learn. They say you can learn so much more by listening than by talking.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and overcome some of that. And so, again, if we can become a good listener, do you think that'll have any impact on our friendships or relationships with other people, whether it's the people we love or the people we like, the people we work with? Do you think it would have any impact?
I don't think it will. I know it will.
Oh, good. I was worried you're going, I don't think.
Sometimes I don't think, Rob. Sometimes I don't think. But I know it does. And I know this because I've done a lot of studies on this. I've written about it. I've taught about it. And that was one thing that was like one of the focal points as an educator, teaching kids how to be active listeners. Communication is paramount, not only as we speak, but more so as a listener.
Okay.
Even from, we talked about this, going back to the one episode of being a great leader. Being a great leader, you have to be a great listener.
Yeah.
In general, being a great listener really enhances your relationships. I mean, it's paramount. That and that's why it was important to me to try and equip kids with skills to become great listeners. There's so many issues in the world because people don't listen.
Yes.
And so that's why it was important to me, and I'm still passionate about it, about being a great listener. So yeah, I'm sorry. Go on, because I could go on too, but I want you to go on. Go on with your bad self.
Ooh, okay. Well, one of the things that they're talking about in this article is something that we, again, building on what you just said, that we do in class, because again, I teach political science, and people do get very excited when talking politics, to the point that sometimes people go, I don't want to talk politics because people always get mad.
Yeah.
Well, are they getting mad because they're not listening? Are they listening to respond versus listening to understand? And so they even mention in this article that maybe something that is lacking in our political discourse today is a lack of listening. And so I thought, well, yes. And so I reiterated again when school started that we need to listen to what people say. You don't have to like and you don't have to agree, but you can listen. And then if you listen to understand,
right,
maybe you can have a conversation or a discussion, because if we can go back to discussing things, maybe we can do better at solving things. Right. And so anyway, so that's why I liked this particular article, as we're talking again about these skills. And so they broke it down into verbal things and nonverbal things that we can do to improve our ability to listen.
Yeah.
All right, so are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so the first one. So we're gonna dive into the verbal first, okay? Mostly because it's listed first. And so the first thing they talk about is reflections. Paraphrase. When somebody says something to you, then paraphrase it back. If I understand what I heard you say, it was this. In which case, then that person, well, yeah, that's okay. All right, great. Now I understand what you're asking or what you're talking about. So you're saying, okay, yay. You follow that up with then, because if you did not hear it right, then, or you misunderstood what they were trying to say, well, then that's going to affect how you respond.
Right.
So by rephrasing it or paraphrasing it back to them, you're saying, I listened to you, and I listened to you in such a way that I understood what you were trying to say. Because you can then follow that up. And this is the second thing. Ask an open-ended question. Now, we as teachers, we're pretty darn good at that. But for the average person, an open-ended question is one that doesn't require a yes or no answer.
Right.
Or a one-word response. So ask these questions, because if you're asking questions, then you're gaining information from that person without putting them on the defensive.
Mm-hmm.
So again, but you're also reestablishing that you're listening.
Right.
And it's active listening. You're listening with, well, you know how they talk, I think there's a definition between hearing and listening.
Mm-hmm.
This case, you're not just hearing passively, you're actively involved.
Right.
So you paraphrased what they said to begin with. You've asked an open-ended question, usually for some kind of clarification, like, well, what do you think we could do to solve this problem or to make it better?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, then you talk about, then the third thing they say is validation. Reinforce what the person is saying by saying, you know, I hear what you're saying, and you bring up some very good points. Well, now you're calming them. You're letting them know that, hey, I hear you. I'm interested enough to make you think a little more, expand a little more on your thought process, and now I'm validating that what you say has value and merit.
Mm-hmm.
At no point have you said anything along the way that you disagree. You're not putting them on the defensive.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, you know, what they tell us when communicating with parents. Start with something positive.
Mm-hmm.
If you begin an email, a phone call, or face-to-face dialogue with, well, your child, let me tell you, and you've got a laundry list of defaults.
Yeah.
Well, suddenly that parent stopped listening about the third thing in.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very upset that you're attacking their child, because when you attack their child, you're attacking them.
Mom's on defense with pitchfork in hand.
Yeah, ready to light the torch.
Ready to light it up.
So, and I think that is for all of us. If somebody, you know, well, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're full of crap.
Yeah.
Well, you're already creating a conflict.
Right.
You are not listening. So again, reflect. If I hear you right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, I get you. I understand. Well, then the fourth thing. Use simple words that encourage the other person to keep speaking. Uh-huh. Okay. Sure. I got you. Oh, okay. These are little things that show that you're an active listener,
Mm-hmm.
that you are paying attention, but you are letting them speak.
Yeah.
We're not interrupting. And anybody that knows me knows that I interrupt because I like what you're saying, and I'm going, yeah, you know, that reminds me. And then suddenly I've stopped listening to understand, and I am in that listening to respond mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that to you more than once. I'm sorry.
I know. You're all about yourself.
Well, it is. It's all about me, except when it's not. And then it is. So, but I like that. And what's interesting is that going through my training to become a counselor, these are exactly what they're saying.
Yeah.
That you should do. And these are things that I try to do. And what's really great is that when I do these things, the level of conversation skyrockets.
Right.
All right. So here's the last thing.
Okay.
All right. So again, we're talking about reflection. So paraphrasing, asking open-ended questions, validate them by saying, you know, I get it. And then the simple, sure, no problem. Keep going. I like what you're saying.
Right.
I want to hear more. The last thing is to use the speaker's name. Bryce, you know what? That was really good. I like what you said when you said this.
Mm.
And so that way the person, again, you are reinforcing that connection that when you're speaking, I feel like you actually care.
Right.
Even if you don't.
Yes, I
did. So.
I like it.
You think you could do this with Suzanne? Try and make her think you care?
Listen, Rod, I am an exceptional listener. See how the beginning of the podcast? Yeah, I'm a good listener. Now I'm an exceptional listener, Rod. Now I think I agree with that 100%. Again, I've not only have tried to teach that as a former educator, but I also try and practice those things just because I know of its importance. So like with Suzanne and I, it's not always easy, but it's easier to determine whether I need to sit down and shut up or stand up and say something. Versus in our conversation, it's I'm able to determine whether she's just venting and doesn't need me to try and fix anything, or it's I'm really venting. I'm speaking to you because I need you to help me fix something. So I'm not 100%, you know, 8, 9 out of 10 times during our conversations.
Wow, you're better than I am.
Just because I think it's important, Rod. It's so important. And then, you know, I would say, you know, I don't know where it ranks, but I hear it all the time. You know, spouses, they just didn't listen. They weren't listening to me, or we had issues in our marriage, and I tried to tell you these things, but we're divorced now because you didn't listen. You weren't listening to me. We hear that all the time. You just weren't listening to me. So that's why I pride myself on that. It's like, being a good listener. Again, that's why I was trying to teach these kids, and it's pretty, and I wouldn't say spot on, but it's very similar to what you just said, those things, just because I believe in it's important. I believe how impactful it is in your relationships when you become an excellent listener. You know, and it's hard because we are surrounded by weapons of mass distraction. One of them is usually in our pocket. It's called the cell phone.
Oh, very true.
Even if it's in our hand, that person that's trying to talk to you sees a phone in your hand, automatically assume that phone is somewhat more important than the conversation. Don't just sit there and say, well, I'm just holding it. It's in your hand. You have control of that phone in your hand. To some, that's a signal that you're not fully invested in that conversation because of something in your hand.
Exactly. Thank you. One of the new policies that we have here at school this year, and I'm a big fan. In fact, I even told the kids that the school district finally came around to my way of thinking. Okay, no, that's not true. But I have always said no cell phones in class. We do not need it. There is literally nothing you need from your phone in class. Well, school policy now is, from the moment the bell rings to the moment to start class to the moment bell rings to end the class, that phone is not in your hand.
Okay.
It is in your bag. It is out of sight. I collected 2 phones today.
Wow, what a jerk.
I know. It was great. No. But it is it's a distraction.
Yeah, it is. 1,000%.
So whether it's your schoolwork or a conversation, I hate when I'm at the movies and people are on their phones. I haven't got there yet, but I have been very tempted to get up and walk and say, put your dang phone away. I'm trying to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Because they're busy, whatever they're doing. You want to play on your phone. You want to text. You want to, whatever you're doing with your phone, do it at home. Watch the movie at home.
Right.
Stream it.
Yeah.
But when you're at the movie theater, show a little respect. But anyway, I have issues with phones.
Yeah.
Anybody that's ever been in my classroom will tell you I have issues with phones. But it is. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Show interest.
Yeah.
Which ties right in with the other things.
What's that?
The nonverbal. I mean, I have gotten myself into more trouble because it's not what I say, it's what I do. It's how I look. Body speaks volumes.
Oh, yeah. Body language.
I mean, one of my favorite things, I love the movie Hitch.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one.
And yeah, I wish that movie had come out long before it did. I might have had a whole different level of relationships with ladies. But anyway,
you found the right one.
Yes, I did. You had to kiss a lot of, what are girl frogs? to find my princess. But anyway, but I in there he says that 90% of communication has nothing to do with the words we speak. And I totally, completely agree. Because like I said, I've had people say to me, what's your problem?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't say I had a problem. Really? Because you're looking at me with evil eyes. You got your eyes, your hands on your hips cocked. I mean, think about this. Your mother did not have to say a word, but could communicate a lot with just a stare, right?
Yep.
I have yet to meet a mother that doesn't have that skill.
Right.
I mean, my mother is amazing. Even today. I mean, this is a lady in her 80s, and, there's 4 of us grown kids.
Yeah.
And she can still communicate with the love.
Right.
Okay, so, and again, I haven't met a mother in this world yet. Now, the dad's totally, maybe not. But moms have that, like, I don't know. Maybe it's something that goes, once you transition from, that first kid when you're going through, and then it just goes on from there.
Right.
All right, so again, the nonverbal,
look,
all right, can speak volumes.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
And a lot of times people are just unaware of their body language. Again, being aware of yourself and your body language. Again, that's whether you realize it or not, it's speaking, and someone's picking up on it.
Yeah, and as teachers, you can't. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
After 20 years, I ought to be. But I'm getting better at focusing on the nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, when I can see, oh, well, that kid seems to be having something other than or even if they are having a joyous day, you can see that too.
Right.
And so reading, I guess maybe you call it reading the room, like reading body language.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know.
Read the room, Rod.
Looking around. Well, there's a lot of, anyway. Oh, not this room. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Wrong time.
Okay. All right. So, are you ready for the 5 things they talk about?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay.
Are you listening?
What?
Okay. I'm glad. All right. So the first one is facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what makes great comedians, because they can make you laugh by their facial expressions.
Yeah.
But again, you can convey so much, whether it's interest or disinterest, empathy, curiosity, increased interest, or absolute no interest.
Mm-hmm.
But you can with your facial expressions. And I have been guilty of that.
Yeah. I think we all are, Rod. And aren't there like 7 or 8 different facial expressions that being sad, happy, depressed, whatever, right?
Oh, I don't know.
That send off those messages.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like 7 or 8. I don't know. I don't have it. I guess we can Google it. But anyways, when you talk about facial, that just came up to mind, like, because I've discussed that in the past. Just again, your face, it's speaking.
There you go. So the another is head nodding, and I do this a lot. You and I have talked about heck, I feel like I'm a bobblehead over here, going yeah. But again, you're conveying understanding,
right?
And I enjoy that as a teacher, watching the kids' facial expressions go from to nodding. Again, they're engaged. Just they don't have to say anything, but again, I guess you're right. Read the room.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of nice. Now, the one thing that I have a problem with, and that's body posture. First of all, I slouch too much, but I don't think that's what they're talking about.
Setting up straight. I don't want you to judge me right now. I don't want you to think I'm disinterested in your little podcast here.
Thanks. Well, the podcast is growing. But again, body posture. And this is something, again, I go back to moms with not just the look, but cock those hips.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, put their hands on their hips, cock them a little bit, and then give you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
the look that makes you say, "Oh, fudge
sickles." Yes. I mean, again, whether it was my grandmother's, my mom, or even friends growing up that, their moms.
Yeah.
You could, they didn't have to say a word. You could walk up to the front door, you could walk in the house, and you knew if you were in for a good time or a bad time.
Right.
Again, that body posture.
Yeah.
I have communicated a lot of times displeasure.
Yeah.
Again, I'm trying to say, well, demonstrate on the radio.
We're not on live TV or anything right now, Rod.
Oh, well.
But that was a great example you just showed me.
So, again, body posture. But another one is gaze. And I think gaze also ties in with keeping eye contact. That's how I interpret gaze. Okay. Because when you're talking, I want to be showing you that I am interested by looking at you.
Okay.
If you're talking and I'm listening and I'm looking around the room like you're doing right now, or looking on your phone, or watching TV, or doing a myriad of other things, mm-hmm. you're communicating, especially if you're doing other things besides looking at me. You're saying, I'm hearing you, but the other stuff I've got is a lot more important at this moment than what you're saying.
Right.
So I'm passively listening.
So what you're saying is eye contact.
Pretty much.
Okay. For clarification.
Oh, yeah. A great example. I have a friend of mine that used to be a judge, and he said that they are so busy with so many court cases that when he was having cases being argued, because a lot of his were divorce cases, and the lawyers were going back and forth, and he would be listening about 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And why? Well, he was busy doing other stuff, researching stuff for other cases, writing opinions for other cases, because there just aren't enough hours in a day to, because he said, I didn't have the time to focus. Well, when you're not actively listening, what are the chances that you're missing key pieces of information? And so, I understood his perspective and point of view, but he was not looking at what was going on 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. And so, again, eye contact. Show me that what I'm talking about is important enough to you to listen.
The next time you're in a conversation, or whoever's listening in a conversation, just do practice a little social experiment, if you will. Okay. When you're in a conversation, pay attention. Like, you be locked in on that person and just pay attention to where they're, the person you're having the conversation, where their eyes are. Because I notice so often when I'm in a conversation with someone, their eyes are all over the place.
Okay.
Man, that might be, I don't know, but it might be from technology, phone, whatever. Mm-hmm. There seems to be a problem with people having eye contact. Like, if I'm in a conversation, it happens. Pay attention to it.
Okay.
I don't know if you do or not right now, but it's something that I just have picked up on. In conversation earlier today, I probably had eye contact with the individual 4 times.
How long was the conversation?
Like 30 minutes.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
So I don't know what's behind it. I don't know if it's because we're behind a computer or remote. I don't know. Have we lost our ability to communicate face to face? Are we losing the ability to communicate face to face, to look at the person in their eyes? Now, for us, maybe we could look at our spouses or our children or whatever, do it differently. But even kids, when I was in education or with other staff members or what, it wasn't always, it was looking at the ground or what. But again, that signaled to me, you're elsewhere. You're not really in the conversation, you're elsewhere. Now, maybe some people, there might be some wiring or whatever, but for the most part, I think the average person just isn't there fully. They're not present.
Live in the moment.
Yeah, be where your feet are.
Yes,
that's hard for people to do. I don't know. I could go on and on about this, and I'm not judging anyone. I'm just pointing it out.
No, it's an interesting.
Like, are we literally losing the ability to look at each other in the eyes and have a conversation? Or are we that so overwhelmed and inundated with all this other crap that's going on in the world that we just can't have a face-to-face conversation anymore?
I thank you. That is something, they've been saying this, they were saying a little bit before COVID, but especially since COVID. Well, I mean, think about it. You work from home. Suzanne works from home. Sherry works from home. Yeah. I mean, she's having to go in a little more often now because I got some new employees. But I mean, a tank of gas lasts her like 3-4 months.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Okay. I mean, her car left indents. Well, because it was so dang hot, 100 days of 100-degree temperatures.
Melted the concrete?
No, but the tire melted a little bit on the concrete because the car hadn't moved that long.
Oh, no way.
Yes way. So she doesn't, so she does a lot of work from home. But yeah, I mean, I take a look at our students last year. They came back when we went 100% in person. And the year before, when we were, 50% in person, 50% online. The kids at home online really didn't learn hardly anything. The kids that in class did, because again, that physical interaction. But I agree. And I think it's making it harder because we are not engaging in these, not just the verbal, but the nonverbal part of our communication.
Right.
So there's one more on the nonverbal.
Let's have it.
All right. The first one was facial expressions.
Got it.
The second one was head nodding, bobbleheading.
Yep.
Third, body posture, hands on hips. Gaze. Look lovingly.
Right?
Look lovingly. Ooh.
I guess maybe that's why I don't look at you so often.
Oh, well.
It's so hard to look at.
All right. So the last one they suggest is silence. Anyway, but it ties into what we talked. Ties into what we've talked about in listening to understand. Yes. Because it says stay quiet and don't interrupt the other person or seem too eager to break in. When you are listening to understand, now you are invested. And we've talked about this on many occasions. So I'm glad that it was added to this list of 5.
Yeah. So
I think that if we can better utilize the 5 verbal of reflection, open-ended questioning, validation, utterances, and, by the way, mention the speaker's name.
Yeah.
And then follow that up with the 5 nonverbal of facial expressions, head nodding, body posture, gaze, and silence. What could that do to not just conversations that we have with individuals, but could we push and encourage by our actions to other people, and maybe through a lot of, again, networking, so to speak, by demonstrating how to be more effective at listening, we can go back to communicating with each other instead of depending on social media to yell, scream, insult, and all the other stuff that seems to be so prevalent.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
What?
I convinced you.
You did.
Yay. My mission is accomplished.
No, it is. And we talk and we bring it up so often because it's so important. It's so important. That communication piece is so vital to relationship success, to business success, team success, whatever success. It's vital to that, and the listening piece is so critical to reach that thriving state we're trying to help families, relationships get to. And listening is so critical. It's such a critical piece to that. Kind of going back to what I used to do in kids, it brought up some of the things when we started talking about this, how I reinforced it. You just talked about it. We model the behaviors that you would like to see in others. So I wanted to model effective listening in those kids. And we did fun games and they thought it was fun, but in the end, it was about becoming a better listener with a question game. They all got in a big circle.
Mm-hmm.
To the left, they asked a question.
Okay.
They had to remember their question. When it came back around, they had to give an answer to the person to their right. So to the left, they're giving a question. To the person to the right, they're giving a response. So they've got to remember both of those. So recall, right? And then I get them all up and I move them in, rearrange the entire circle.
Okay.
They've got to ask the same question, then they've got to give the same answer. It's like that one ad lib thing, right?
Okay, yeah.
But it encourages listening. So you got to remember, but you got to listen. And so you're speaking out loud. Everyone could hear. It was fun. The other thing we did, you and Sherry could go home to do this tonight. It was called the last word or one word, or I forget exactly what it is. But if I'm talking to you right now and say, hey, football is about to start. I love football. You start with the last word. What was the last word I just said?
Start.
No.
Football is about
football. So you weren't listening. You
said football is about to start.
Football is about to start. I love football. So you would pick up on the last word that I said. What was the last word that I said?
Football.
Football. So you would make a sentence on football. So go ahead, try it.
Football, especially high school football, is so much fun.
Fun. I love fun. Would you like to have fun tonight with me, Rod, at the bar?
Sometimes.
No. You have to start with bar.
Bar was one of my favorite APs at the school we taught at.
That's hard. Now, anyways, if you get what it encourages listening. You listen to all the way through because it goes back to that listen to understand. We want to cut the conversation off so much because we're offended or we don't agree with that person instead of listening all the way through. That's how you become a good listener. And obviously incorporating the things that you discussed earlier are all just such great wisdom for you, and practical things to apply to become a great listener. That's all I got. I'm going to shut up. Wow.
I apologize. Thank you for sharing. I like that game. You know what? That could be something fun that we could do in class.
Dude, absolutely. You need to do those. Those are fun. They're good, and they're good team building. They're good icebreakers. They're getting to know each other. And while you're reinforcing the whole listening skills.
I love it. Anyways. Because you're right. Life is so much better with positive relationships. Mm-hmm. And again, relationships at home, relationships at school, at work, in life in general. Yep. And if we can improve our relationships with everyone that we engage with, then that might make life, I don't know, maybe more enjoyable, more meaningful.
I agree. Love it. That's a good one, Rod. Thanks for the reminder today.
No worries. That's what I'm here for. So,
why are you here?
Because I had nowhere else to go.
All right. Well, it's time for you to go.
Okay. Well, in that case, my name is Ron.
I'm Bryce.
Ciao.